Now, I don't really want to wade into this. I don't. I'm going to, because even when I say I don't really want to wade into this, I kind of do. Like, I'm only going to talk about stuff that I want to talk about on this channel. Oops, sorry. Anyways, the AFCON final has had one final spinoff show that, you know, it's kind of died on the vine. Nobody's really paying attention to it anymore. But there are 19 Senegalese fans that have now ended up in jail in Morocco. They've ended up in jail, some of them up to a year, which, look, a year in jail, that sucks massively, right? In most people that are going to football matches, I would say all people that are going to football matches really aren't going to do a lot to find their way there. But Morocco, it's worked its way through the court system, and the hearings have come down, and there's a lot of upset. And this was actually sent to me by, like, this, I didn't even know what was going on. This was sent to me by a Senegalese fan. I believe they had like the Senegalese flag in their profile of the account that they used to send it to me. And they're like, yo, check this out. This is crazy. They're holding Senegalese fans hostage. And I think that this is an incredibly shitty situation, but I don't necessarily know if they're holding Senegalese fans hostage. So it was very clear that there was a lack of, how am I going to word this appropriately, right? There was a lack of institutional control in Morocco. Shit got out of hand. The whole stealing the goalkeeper's water bottle and towel and like, you know, Morocco did not put on a good tournament in terms of being able to adhere to the rules and the law. They didn't. I mean, we talked about that obviously at length. I feel like if you had a conversation with the average Moroccan, they would probably agree with you. Like, yeah, that shit got a little out of hand. You know, Morocco still hasn't won the AFCON since the 70s. This was the one that they were hosting. They just desperately needed it. But that controversy just kind of welled up of the mistreatment to the teams that weren't Morocco, and it reached a fever pitch in the final. Now, part of that was a situation before the game where a lot of the fans for the other teams, right? Because even though Morocco's the host, there are rules in place that usually protect fans of all the nations participating being able to go, right? It's not like it's a home game for Morocco where there's a bunch of Morocco season ticket holders taking up all the front row seats, right? There's an allocation that goes, and there were some questions about the allocation or how it was being broken up or whatever. The end result was a pretty solid contingent of Senegalese fans off to one end that were able to attend this final. And I commend them. That was brave of them to just even show up there in the first place, because it had become, I mean, this took on a England in the Euros final feel. Like, this stadium was ready to blow. If they stormed the field, I don't know if anybody was going to be able to stop them. You know, like there was a real feeling from me watching it live on the screen that this thing was just on the verge of getting completely out of control. Like, it was getting dangerous. Now, there's some context here that Morocco does have a lot of issues in its domestic league with stadium violence. It's very common actually in North Africa in general. Just look at highlights of how large they have to make the tunnel for away national teams playing in Libya, because all the Libyan fans try to throw things at them. So they try and make the tunnel long enough that they can't throw it all the way there, to be able to hit the players running out. It's kind of hilarious. It's just like every different part of the world has its own footballing culture. There is a big time like fan violence vibe that you get in North Africa. Morocco, obviously, with the ability to logistically put on this tournament and the way they've organized their football, I would say better than Algeria, better than Libya, whatever. Morocco is more put together in that sense. But they've still had this issue. And there have been a lot of court cases. Like, there is a real tried and true legal precedent for hooliganism in the stands, basically, and how to deal with that legally. Like, they've been throwing people in jail basically for stadium hooliganism for a while. And that's where we get to Senegal, because I am sure, right, I am absolutely sure that the Senegalese fans experienced a lot of trash talk, a lot of shit thrown their way, maybe even literally. Wouldn't have been surprised at all, given, you know, I mean, just the vibe in that stadium. Even, I'm not saying that this is like a Moroccan issue. I got Morocco, you know, I love the Moroccan national team. I have been to the country before, and it's awesome. But I'm sure those Senegal fans were going through some shit. Again, I feel like the average Moroccan would agree with that, right? And I'm walking carefully here, because after the Senegalese team walked off the field when the penalty was given, you remember the lore. right? The Senegalese fans kind of started popping off, right? Understandably, chaos reigned, but, it's kind of a who started it situation with, I guess, the Senegalese fans and the stewards, but there were Senegalese fans on the field, and nobody forced them to go on the field. And there was shit happening here. Like, here's an angle, just like a nice reminder of what was going down. And I like how he shows that's going on while the penalty is being taken. Like, they're not even watching the penalty. I mean, they're on the field. There's shit. I mean, they're throwing shit pretty hard, like in a way that, would be capable of hurting somebody. And so with Morocco's history of fan hooliganism and their legal precedents for how to deal with it, I am not surprised this ended up happening. I'm not. And I do think that even if it is some sort of retribution from Morocco, which people are suggesting that this is like Morocco taking a pound of flesh from Senegal, like, well, we're going to just throw some fucking fans in prison because, fuck you guys. We're going to throw some of your fans in prison because we can. Even if that is the actual reason, they do, I feel like, have legal precedent to hide behind. But I think the most likely explanation is, obviously, the Moroccan authorities are not going to give the Senegalese fans any benefit of the doubt. They're not going to let them off with a warning if they have broken the law, because there's a lot of bad blood here, and football is life. But there's video evidence of like a dude throwing a chair, like they didn't arrest the whole fan section, right? It's 19 guys. And it really sucks for those 19 guys, because I'm sure in that moment, they felt like they were in some sort of life or death war situation. That's what that looked like. But you also don't see the Moroccan authorities moving into the Senegalese section, at least from any of the video that I've seen, just like cracking skulls, You don't see that. I mean, sure, the way they dealt with Senegalese fans that came on the field was pretty wild in some instances, and there was like some jostling with the stewards, and at that point, they'd already gotten like the riot police over there to try and keep it under control. But I think it is at least disingenuous of people that are saying that, I think it is at least disingenuous of people that are saying that this is like Moroccan retribution, to ignore the fact that it looks like, and again, this is probably a surprise to you, not a legal expert in Morocco or in generally Moroccan law. Libyan law, I got you, but Moroccan law, absolutely not. That's a real blind spot for me. It looks like laws are being broken. It does. I mean, it looks like you can't just be on the field throwing shit at people and like fighting police and expect it to just not matter because there happens to be a football match in the background. Now, I travel a lot. I'm very fortunate to travel a lot, but one of the most important things about traveling is also being aware of the legal climate in a country. Like, if you go to one country and maybe this is illegal, in this country and maybe this is illegal, or hey, in this country, they're a lot more strict about fan hooliganism in the stadium. But in this country, a little more relaxed. If I want to have a little punch up with this dude, I can. I'll always think that's stupid around a sporting event, but that's neither here nor there. The fun part about going to another country is that you're exposed to something that you're unfamiliar with. You are able to throw yourself into a world that you're unfamiliar with and learn how that world works. The not fun part is that sometimes you get you throw yourself into a world and you don't really know how it works, and all of a sudden you get caught by it. Usually this is a much more simple process of like, oh shit, I'm in Spain and everything's closed when I want to eat lunch because everybody's taking a nap, right? Like that's just, and you're like, oh shit, I guess I'm just going to have to wait till dinner. You know what I mean? Though the really unfun side of that is these Senegalese fans that ended up in a tough situation and also ended up doing things that under Moroccan law, it seems pretty cut and dry reading articles about it, is illegal. And so I think like half of them are in jail for a year, some for 3 months, some for 6 months. And I don't think any of these people are actually bad people or anything. But the penalties legally for this sort of thing in Morocco are just super fucking big. Where normally, I guess, I don't say normally because it's different in every country. I feel like if you did this sort of thing in the US, fine, a night in jail maybe. But the penalties in Morocco for this are really stringent. And based off all of the like factual reporting I can find on it, there isn't really evidence of this being retribution, or there isn't anybody at least able to prove that, because the legal ground that the prosecutors are standing on, because the defense attorneys are also Moroccan, right? That's, how a good legal system works. It's pretty solid. Like there isn't much of a, obviously the Senegalese fans feel like it's retribution, particularly the ones that have been prosecuted, but I think it's just a really shitty, tough situation. The whole thing got out of control. And I think the ultimate responsibility for everything getting out of control definitely falls on the Moroccan authorities that were running the event. But you can't just, if you have laws in place to protect against this sort of thing, you can't just ignore that it happened, right? So it's a bitch of a situation, and I feel terrible for the guys that have ended up in jail because, again, I don't think they're terrible people. But upon having actually looked into this, I think it's one of those situations where you have to go, but there's not much you can do. Like there's really just not much you can do. I think it's just good general rule of thumb to not start brawling with the stadium staff and then eventually the riot police when you're like visiting another country. You know what I mean? And maybe brawling's not the right word, but scrapping with, exchanging thrown items with, would have been, cooler heads probably could have prevailed and it would have kept some people out of prison. That's really the end of the day. That's it. If one or two more people had come out and been like, everybody fucking calm down, a few more dudes would not be in prison.